Hi everyone, welcome back to our monthly Q&A. I get asked a lot when I'm treating children who have complex conditions and complex health concerns, why so many supplements and why such high doses? It's kind of a two-part question, right? Why so many supplements? And I mean, this means, maybe you're somebody who's never ever taken supplements or given a supplement to your child. I think of them from the point of view of really using them as treatment. That's what biomedical support is when you're investigating and looking at the whole child and really seeing where the root causes of certain things that have been there for a long time. um, you know, when we're looking at those root causes, what we need to really be looking at and treating. And so sometimes it can get overwhelming in terms of how many supplements we at least talk about. I'm often trying to minimize the number of them, at least in a stepwise fashion, creating a protocol so that you're starting with a basic few and then building from there, maybe scaffolding in some more while you maybe discontinue previous ones, or earlier ones as you go. So, the reason why there sometimes can be so many is that we're really trying to treat the person as a whole. And if you think about the challenges that your child has, how serious they might be, how much of an impact they really may have on your child's life, we have to approach it from many different points of view. And if we just keep doing what we've been doing for a long time and nothing's working, well, then nothing's going to change, right? And it's not to say that things like diet support and changes can't make a huge difference, but sometimes those are complications as well, because sometimes it's almost impossible for a change to happen in the beginning. So I often come in with supplements a lot in the beginning, to help, just in so many different ways. And it would be too long of a list of reasons to state it all here, but some of the big ones being to support a person's nervous system and really nip things in the bud and sort of go to where these big challenges are really declaring themselves, and that child is maybe really not regulated or able to focus or able to sit still, and they're super activated. you know I'm usually focusing in the beginning of treatment on things that really nourish and support and calm, but also clarify energy and things for the nervous system and help with regulation. And then we're probably doing some digestive support to help your child digest better, absorb nutrients better, help them get the best they possibly can from the diet they do have right now while we maybe investigate further. And then I'm looking at, okay, but can we also help to push development in the right direction from the very beginning? So that might be another extra supplement. And maybe there's immune issues and we have to deal with those too. So often parents come to me with so many concerns. And when you've got, 1,000 things going on, we need at least a few good, solid supplements to help support that child, that person, to nip it in the bud. Now, on to the second part of the question, why such high doses? Because, when I'm suggesting dosing, sometimes the dosing is close to an adult dose for a child. And what I say to parents is that there's a few ways in which a child or anyone can become deficient in something that they need. Either they're not getting enough in their diet, or maybe if they are getting enough in their diet, but they're not digesting well and they're not absorbing well. That can also create a deficiency. But what if they are getting enough, they're absorbing enough, but there's a lot of inflammation on the other side, inside that child's system, and that means therefore their need is so much higher. That means they're burning through it even faster. So that can create a relative deficiency as well. Or what if it's something that the body is also meant to make, and you have a higher need, they're burning through it too fast, or they're not producing enough of it either. So therefore, essentially then, and if you can't, what if you can't also change the diet and get things into them from that point of view? Then we kind of have no choice but to use a supplement. But that also means then that dosing has to be substantial. We're not talking about minuscule amounts of 1,000 things. I always like to use really solid dosing based on research and based on years and years of experience and other people's experiences, families' experiences. And we're often tailoring the dosing to that child's tolerance, depending on what the supplement is. Maybe even starting very low at first and working our way up slowly, but to a significant, substantial dose so that you can actually see a benefit. Because often the kids that I see, they have a higher need. They simply have a higher need. There's more oxidative stress. There's more inflammation. There are greater and deeper deficiencies that have been there long term. And there are bigger things at stake, like development, like language development, like social skill development, like focus, sleep, repair, recovery, immune health. There are a lot of things at stake because this impacts your child's day-to-day function and the whole family's day-to-day function. So that's why the doses can sometimes seem high to parents, and I'll often get questions around is it safe and things like that. And of course, if there are certain situations where your child can't process certain things or they're on medications that might interact with supplements, of course that conversation has to be different. But it's not just about high doses, but it's about tailoring the doses. So sometimes those tailored doses can appear high. And when you're typically looking at the bottle of a supplement, where it's going to show you the recommended daily values, those values are extremely conservative because, in order for a supplement to get approved for sale, they have to be very conservative with their dosing and with their claims around the dosing. And so that's why it may also, impact how you see the dose, and that it seems just crazy high compared to what is recommended. But often, with something, I'll give you an example, like something like magnesium. Magnesium is something that many people have such a big relative deficiency in, and it can cause nervousness, anxiety, muscle tension, constipation. So many things are impacted by having a magnesium deficiency, and therefore magnesium can be so helpful. So tailoring a dose might look like how much can that person tolerate bowel-wise, because eventually it becomes a laxative. It might become a laxative for them right away, but bowel tolerance might mean slowly, start at a small dose and slowly work your way up and see what they can tolerate. If you get to the loose stool point, you back off by 1, and that's your optimal dose for now. And that could change and vary over time. So that's an example. But there are other things, let's say like B12, if we're really trying to push for, language development. We're at a crucial point with your child's care, and we want to, push and really flood their system with good stuff that could really help them on their way to having language bursts and really opening up that way. Something like B12, in a supplement, you might see it in the smallest microgram doses, like 80 micrograms. And I'm like, that's nothing. That's actually a drop in the bucket. So recommended daily doses are, what do you need to survive, to just simply not die? But that doesn't mean that's the right dose for optimal function and optimal support. So that's the long answer to why so many supplements and why such high dosing. I hope that was helpful. And we look forward to supporting you here at NeuroKids. I'm Dr. Natalie Rahr. Nice to see you.